Hey guys, welcome to the Mo and Joe podcast. Our main topic today is a very controversial topic, but it's going to be very good. It's actually about family and sexuality. Now, before you guys go into your thought patterns, I want you guys to understand that we are speaking in context of marriage. When people get married to their loved one, how do they feel about finding out that this person might be a homosexual or bisexual or someone who's a part of the LGBT community? Now, before we go into it, I want to introduce myself to you guys. For those of you who do not know, my name's Joe, and
I'm Mo.
Okay, so we are, two different perspectives when it comes to this topic. I identify as a person who is a part of the LGBTQ community, and he identifies as heterosexual. And so obviously our perspective is a little different, but our main objective is to kind of, come together and understand each other's point of view.
As men.
Of course, as men. Okay. So a good example of this is there was a pastor who had been a pastor for about 15 years with his church. And he basically came out to his wife. This was back in 2012 so he came out to his wife about his sexuality, and basically he eventually had to step down from ministry because of that, because his family and his church did not quite accept who he was, and he felt as though he had to go through a great loss because of something that he couldn't change. And the fact that his family didn't understand who he was kind of made them feel as though they were betrayed, or he wasn't transparent or honest to them, or he didn't care about them. And it's kind of one of those things that it's kind of very personal to me, because there's something that people struggle with. People sometimes feel like committing suicide, and they just want, I think on both sides, I think both the family and the individual would want to understand each other a little bit better. And so what I want us to do is kind of dissect the situation,
Okay.
and kind of understand each other's perspective and where the pastor's coming from and where his family's coming from. But in this discussion, we will be dissecting it from the perspective of why did he have to come out, or or should he not have came out? Should he have put his family's happiness above his? Should he have put the church above his own happiness? And that's kind of what we're going to go into so far. But before we go into that, I do want to ask you, Mo, what are your thoughts on an individual feeling the pressure to have to come out to his family about who he is? Should he have came out about it, or should he have hidden who he was? What are your opinions on it? What are your thoughts on it?
Well, for me, I am a strong believer. And if you feel like it has to be hidden, then you probably shouldn't do it. So, with that being said, if he felt compelled to come out, that was a burden being lifted off of him. I no longer have to hide who I am, because I no longer have to feel ashamed who I am, because ain't nothing wrong about who I am. And for me, I would definitely applaud him for being true to himself, and saying, okay, well, regardless of how anybody else feels, I want to feel better about me.
Yeah.
And no one should ever feel as if that's a bad thing.
So for our listeners, are you saying, Mo, that you think it's a good idea that he came out about who he was?
Definitely.
Versus hiding it? Okay.
Definitely.
Okay.
And I really believe the church should have been more open-minded.
Yeah.
Especially in this day and age. I mean, we in 2020, you know what I'm saying? It's not nothing to be ashamed of anymore. It's not nothing nobody should have to hide.
Yeah.
He should have had the same support.
Yeah.
As to when he wasn't, when he didn't put it out there.
Yeah. I'll say this. and then I will kind of like play devil's advocate a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
As a guy who identifies as part of the LGBT community, I understand the pain that we go through when it comes to self-acceptance.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody ever wakes up and say, I want to be gay. Like, no one ever wakes up and say, I want to be transgender. Like, this is, prime example, no one really ever truly says, I want to be this or that. Most people just gravitate to what's easier. And a lot of people try really hard to be that heterosexual person, marry that wife, have those kids, and then realize that they don't have happiness in there. There's no happiness there. And him being brave enough to embrace who he was and really just, see who he is as a person, is definitely one of the hardest decisions anyone can make. It's, to me, I equate it to almost like going to the military. There's so much unknown out there. There's always fear, and you have to fight the fear and push out of your comfort zone to really get to where you need to go. So in terms of how his church treated him, I think his church should have been more supportive. That he's being honest. I'd rather he, be honest about who he is than to be cheating on the side, and then they find out about that later. Because God knows there are people out there who are clearly breaking rules and sleeping with their church congregation instead of being honest about who they are.
Right.
Which is a story for another day, to be honest.
So let me ask you this.
Go ahead.
Do you feel as if do you feel like by him being open and honest about his sexuality that he is still fit to lead the church?
I believe so.
Because your sexuality does not have anything to do with your belief system.
I would say there's a caveat to that. I would say that you have to look at the type of messages he was given before he decided to be honest about himself.
Okay.
Because the thing with churches that I've noticed, I'm not a pastor, but from my experience with ministry in churches, is that you have to set the tone of what your church members are going to expect from you. From
a long-term perspective.
I have to set that tone early.
Okay.
If you are going to be Mr. Hell, Fire, and Brimstone, you got to be that all the way through. If you're going to be come as you are and be transparent, you got to be that all the way through. So if you set a tone with your church where you're your hellfire and brimstone, and then now you come out of the closet, you should be honest to your church, but know that you will lose congregation. That's going to happen. Yeah. You're going to lose congregation. People will leave. So you have to make sure that that's a decision that you're okay with. That's something that you're okay with going with, and you have to evaluate the effect it's going to have on your ministry, because a lot of people don't know this, but pastors live off of the church. It's not just a calling. It's a job.
It's a job.
It pays the bills.
It definitely pays the bills.
Sometimes you got to save some money before you come out. Be like, hey, buddy,
right.
I gotta save $5,000. I gotta prepare for this, because
when they hear about this, they gonna find me. I'm gonna be a pastor, and I gotta still pay the bills.
They about to call you all kinds of crap, man. Hypocrite. Throw stuff at your house. TP your house, who knows, right? So you got to evaluate the monetary aspect of coming out to your church.
Okay.
And you got to prepare yourself ahead of time for the reaction that you're going to get, because you might get a great reaction
from most people, but you ain't gonna get a good reaction from everybody.
Or you can get a really bad reaction
from some people, and then get good reaction from a few people.
Yeah, exactly. So the way I look at it is, if I was in that position, I would start with my family. Right. And then I would basically prepare ahead of time. Say, hey, just give me like a couple of months to about a year to prepare our finances, where we're not as dependent on the church income, so that when I do come out to them,
we won't take the financial hit.
Yeah, the ones who are truly loyal will stay loyal, and the ones who are not loyal will leave, But, okay, so I have a few questions.
I have a question about this scenario, because you're a little more informative about it than I am.
Yeah.
I'm curious if you think, or do you know, he came out to his family in private before he approached the church? Or do you think it was all one big shocking?
Private. He came out privately to his family. He made sure that his family was okay with him letting the church know about who he was.
Okay.
and his family gave him a thumbs up. And
They were supportive of him?
Yes.
Okay.
One of the things that I love that he said was, his wife told him that his wife told him to come out a couple of months after she found out.
Right.
And it's really more of an honesty type of thing for him. She's like, you preach honesty to your, people should be honest about themselves.
Yeah.
And I want you to be honest with them. And I mean, at the end of the day, he did lose some congregation, but
he
did
kept
have
the support
people
of his family, and that was important.
There are people who stayed regardless, so that's a good thing on that
that's
aspect.
a good thing.
Now, there's actually there's a few questions that I wanted to kind of talk about, ask. These questions are more in context of different perspective, because obviously there are people who don't agree with men coming out about who they are. So the first question that it's like a devil's advocate type of question.
Okay.
Some people might say, well, why are you a pastor in the first place if you know that you're, gay or bisexual? Now, do you want me to answer this question, or
as you posing me the question, are you asking me? You want my opinion of?
Opinion. Yeah, so
I do have an opinion.
Yeah, so these are some of the things that people might be thinking. So some people might be thinking these questions that the first question is, the devil's advocate, why be a pastor if you know that that's who you are?
Well, because to be a pastor is still to be true to who you are. If he had the calling to preach, that means he feels as if that's a part of who he is, to preach the word of God.
Yeah.
So for him to be honest with me wanting to be a pastor, and to be completely honest, is to be completely honest. Yes, I do want to be a pastor regardless of my sexuality, which is a part of him being honest with himself. Yeah. So I don't fault him for wanting to pursue his truth, who he really is. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
To me, in my opinion, the only thing wrong with it would be the backlash.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because like I said from the beginning, like for you to be honest about who you are, is for you to be accepted by genuinely good people. If anybody have a problem with what they don't agree with, then they just ain't no good people. Because you're not going to agree with everything everybody do. Yeah. But one thing I've always, and I think I said this to you, you got to take the good with the bad. You got to appreciate the good and the bad in the person. Absolutely. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Not necessarily deal with the bad, but at least appreciate it for being a part of who they are.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
And then also, I know some people say, oh yeah, why be a pastor if you know this is who you are and stuff like that?
Because him being a pastor is a part of who he is too.
Yeah, I think people have to differentiate the difference between what you're attracted to and what you do as a profession or what you do as for work.
But see, with
a prime example of this, not to cut you off,
that's right,
is when people, and this is just a example I'm just throwing out there, is when people watch porn stars. The way they are in front of the camera and the way they are in real life are two different things, right? They are performing in that context, and it takes a certain level of maturity to differentiate the two. A lot of people don't want to differentiate the two. People think a pastor has to be this God figure, angelic person that makes no mistakes, doesn't curse, doesn't lie, doesn't do anything wrong, and that's kind of far from the truth. A lot of pastors make mistakes.
But being a
and people have to not cut you off.
I'm sorry, before I forget, because I forgot once already.
Go ahead.
Being a pastor is a completely different type of job.
Of course.
You know what I'm saying? You got to understand, for a job, quote unquote, a job, to be a pastor is a completely different type of job. Yeah. You know what I mean?
A lot of times with being a pastor, we associate it with a lifestyle expectation. And this truth of the matter is, honesty obviously is important, 100%. But at the end of the day, we cannot judge them with a certain expectation that is tied to a God figure, because they're still humans. They still have their own things to deal with. And honestly, man, if my pastor is struggling with who he is and he's telling me to be myself, then that makes him a hypocrite.
That definitely makes him a hypocrite.
People to be themselves and then be upset with them for being themselves.
Exactly.
You know? So we have to
and from a spiritual standpoint, to be a hypocrite is very let me see,
absolutely terrible.
Let me see. I mean, in the eyes of God, a hypocrite is like a bad thing to be. Like you don't want to be that. You know what I mean?
So we'll move on. You know, obviously that's definitely a hot button topic. We'll move on to another question that I call it the devil advocate question. Another one would be, some people say, okay, so we understand that he's a pastor. We understand that's who he identifies as. Why did he have to get married and have children? Now all of a sudden,
maybe that was a part of who he was when he met his woman. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I'm just saying.
Yeah. So we're bringing the kids into it now. Like,
see, in a situation like that, it's kind of hard.
Should they be together or should they leave each other?
I mean, in my opinion, in a situation like that, it's kind of hard to say, okay.
Yeah.
When he met and married his wife, that was a part of who he was in his life at the moment. That don't mean he shouldn't have gotten married. That don't mean he shouldn't have had kids. Because in the moment, that is also a part of who he was. Yeah. Maybe, possibly. Yeah. Possibly it was just something to put out there, like almost like a hidden thing. Yeah. To kind of deflect. Oh well, hey, I'm married with kids, so it's easier to hide.
Do you want to hear my opinion on it?
I definitely want to hear your opinion.
Okay, I honestly, and this is you could call it. I'm gonna get some flack from some people, but I don't think he should have gotten married. Initially.
So you think he loved it? Do you think he really loved his wife?
Yes, I think he loved his wife.
Because love and sex is two different things. Love and lust is two completely different things.
That's true. I think he loves his wife, and I understand why he did it. He married her because of love, and he wanted to be able to be with her.
Let me.
I also feel. Hold on.
Come on with it.
I also feel that I'll say, okay, so as a guy who identifies as part of the LGBT community, the biggest issue that we deal with has to do with this whole thing of trying to cover up who we are and trying to be someone else that we know we're not. Sometimes guys go through those phases where you're trying to fulfill what everyone else wants you to fulfill. They want you to be that married husband with children.
So you think that what he was struggling with when he got married?
I think that's what he was trying to do. I think he was trying to please other people. I think he was trying to
just to get a little
the ideal expectation from a pastor by marrying and having children.
Before we move on, just to get a little bit more insight on this particular situation. How did he meet his wife? Were they in college? Was girlfriend and boyfriend since high school?
They met, I believe they met in the church.
They met in the church. So he was grown. He was full grown, mature adult when they met and got married.
He pretty much grew up in the church, hid who he was, fell in love with her, married her, but while knowing who he was, the whole time. And
so I mean, and to look at it from that perspective, then he should not have gotten married.
Yeah.
I'm just being honest. He should not have gotten married because he knew when he married her that he wasn't sexually attracted to her.
Now, he did admit that he was sexually attracted to her.
He said he is? Okay, well, see, to me, that's you love her
you say that
and you are sexually attracted to your wife. Ain't nothing wrong with you marrying this woman. Even if this is something that is, on the back burner of you. You know what I'm saying?
Would you say that he was more bisexual then?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that would be bisexual. Because look at
this way. I feel like this. I feel like he got married, right? And he enjoyed a little bit of it. He enjoyed getting to, sleep with her, have kids, whatever. Mm-hmm. But I think the fact that he could not access another man because of the marriage stipulation. The fact that he couldn't be, interact with another man sexually, and he has to stay married to that one woman. I think it put him in a position where that desire grew even stronger. To the point where now he's like coming out, hey baby, which is better? I think it's better that he came out to his wife about those feelings versus her finding out through infidelity.
Definitely.
She finds out that he's been sleeping with.
Are they still together?
No, they separated.
They separated.
Yeah. The wife,
she couldn't handle it.
She just did not want to.
She didn't agree with his lifestyle.
No, it wasn't that. She basically wasn't comfortable with knowing that he's attracted to someone else outside of her. You know?
And that I don't blame her for, because
exactly.
I mean, that's because that's still a part of infidelity.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I'm saying? Regardless if you're homosexual or heterosexual, you want to know that your partner is all mine. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to know that. I don't want to think you out here attracted.
Some of us might be okay with sharing, but you got to make sure that everyone knows that up front, because they are gay. They are situations where the husband was gay, the wife was straight, and she allowed him to have his way with.
Okay, well, let me ask you this right here.
That's a whole nother topic.
Yes, but I want to throw a question out here to you.
Go ahead.
We'll
wrap it up after this.
Do you think the perspective would have been different if she was bisexual and he was straight?
Oh.
Do you think that would have made a difference to the community?
That is a very good question. I think if she was a pastor of the church.
Yeah, she a pastor of the church.
And she was, honestly.
The role was just reversed. Everything the same. Just,
you know what? That is a very
good question. But in your opinion, do you think, I mean, this is just an opinion.
Yeah.
Do you think the backlash would have been the same? Do you think she would have met the same backlash that he met?
Interesting. So I would answer that question, but I also want you guys to chime in on your thoughts on that question as well.
Yeah.
We will basically we want you guys to write to our messaging board or email address what your answers or opinions are to that. I think if the role were reversed,
you think she would have had the same backlash?
I don't think she would have the same, because I feel like society is more harder on men themselves than women. Because now in terms of her hiding it, she definitely still should try to be transparent,
be open and honest. Yeah, but the backlash would not have been the same. You think he would have left her? You think they would have? Do you think he would have I know scenarios where the women came out to that husband. No, we ain't talking about.
I'll use that.
Because that's a.
I'll use this example and then I'll answer that.
Yeah, because that's a heavy situation. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Compared to other situations.
When kids are involved. Once you include kids, it gets complicated.
Right.
And then it becomes a matter of what's the best decision for everybody.
Yes.
If it's a situation where your spouse is unhappy living in your marriage with you,
I'm with it.
Then you have to make decision, you and them, to see what's best that can make everyone happy. Now, in terms of her coming out to her husband, should they still be together? I think it's a decision that they have to make themselves. But if you ask me, I think
the backlash would have been completely different.
Yeah, I think honestly, like, if it's a situation, if that was me, if I was in a situation with my other spouses, a situation where, let's say I was a heterosexual and the spouse was gay or bisexual,
right?
I probably would tell them to go explore who they are, and I probably will do the divorce, because I just wouldn't be comfortable knowing that.
You think he would have reacted the same way she did?
I think so. To some extent.
Because the feeling is the same. I don't want my wife to be out here being sexually attracted. I also feel
like if I didn't know it before we got married, that's when I'd be like, okay, maybe you should go explore. But if I knew that's who you were before we got married, and then you're willing to put that aside for the marriage, then I'm going to question the marriage. Are you willing to keep putting that aside for the marriage, or would you want to explore? If I find out that you want to explore, then I'll release you.
And see, that's what that would be the reason why I would kind of question her. Like, it's okay. It's one thing for him to be open and honest with you, but it's another one for him to say, yes, this is the part of who I am. But however, I still will honor and obey my marriage vows to you.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And that should have been the important part before she decided to say, okay, well, I'm going to just go ahead and divorce.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
I'm the same way. My whole thing is, I have to, for me personally, I have to look at it as, are you in the mindset of exploring who you are?
Or you in the mindset
do you want to hold back? Yeah. if you're in the mindset of exploring who you are, then I have to
We'll let
release
you
you.
go.
Yeah, it would be absolutely crazy and extremely unhealthy to force you to stay
Okay, yeah.
if you are in the mindset of exploring.
It's going to be unhealthy for you.
Exactly.
It's going to be unhealthy for us. It's going to be unhealthy for
now,
the kids.
if you tell me I'm gonna hold back, I'm gonna make this marriage work, and I find out later on that it's not working, then yeah, we'll release it. But anyway, more on that topic. If you guys want to state your opinion on it, we'll definitely go to our email and our sounding board and kind of express your opinion. But I want to wrap up this topic. Right? I'm going to wrap this up. So, in conclusion, from my perspective, should this individual, come out to family when it comes to their sexuality? And should they continue, maintaining the position they have in the church, or should someone stay married to someone who's gay or bisexual? I think it should be a discussion that we had before we got married.
Definitely.
Versus after. Now, if we happen to discuss it after we got married, then we have to see, are you of the mindset of exploring who you are, or do you want to keep hiding it? And for me personally, I wouldn't feel comfortable staying married to that person if I know that there's going to be pain that is there because they can't be themselves, And would I open up the marriage and let other people come in? That's a discussion that we have to have.
Yeah, and on the private of our bedroom, definitely.
But what are your thoughts, Mo? What are your thoughts on the conclusion on that?
For me, I'm completely in agreement with you. You know what I'm saying? Before they got married, he should have told her, I love you. I'm very much attracted to you, but I am also attracted to men, and I want to be open and honest with you about it. And if you feel like, okay, you still want to be with me, then I love you. That's not going to change regardless. You know what I'm saying? So I kind of feel as if, like you said, he should have gave her the choice prior to marriage versus after the fact. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So they had kids after they got married. Yeah. So at that point, it's not just them that is being affected by the whole scenario. You have to the kids, what are they going to face if they go to school? They can be, teased and bullied because, hey, man, I heard your daddy, blah, 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 blah. Yeah. These are the things that you have to be mindful of. And with me, personally, I'm like, look, you got to be mindful of everybody that's involved. You know what I'm saying? That's just, that's just me. Like, I'm not finna go into a situation knowing that this situation can have a negative effect on you, on me, and on anybody who may come into,
Absolutely. Well, that's it for today, you guys. Definitely a very hot button topic, and you guys, we definitely hope that you guys continue discussion on our messaging boards or email. But yeah, you guys, wrap it up for today. You guys just heard from Mo and Joe. And, that's it.
I'll let you boys.
Come on, yeah.